My girlfriend cheated on me, so I slept with all of her friends. She cheated on me, and I still don't let her forget it. Good stories about relationships have always given me a warm feeling inside. I think that's because years ago, back in my college days, I got my revenge on a cheating girlfriend, and honestly, it felt incredible. I know I probably shouldn't say that out loud, and I definitely shouldn't have enjoyed it, but I can't lie about how satisfying it was. It might honestly be one of the strongest feelings I've ever experienced in my life. I do feel ashamed about it now, but I rarely talk about this story, and I figured I might as well finally write it out here. It's a long one, and to be honest, it doesn't make me look great. I'm gonna try not to twist things so my ex looks like a monster and I look innocent. I want to be honest about everything, even if it reflects badly on me. For context, at the time I was playing Division I NCAA basketball. My life was basically structured around traveling every week for games in different cities and states. Everything revolved around basketball. Around the same period, I was also starting to slip into serious issues with alcohol and other substances. I didn't fully realize it then, but what happened in this story definitely pushed me further down that path. I always thought I was a good guy. I never got into trouble growing up, even though my childhood wasn't exactly easy. I tried to do the right thing, treat people well, and take the honorable route in life whenever I could. When it came to relationships, I knew cheating existed, but I genuinely believed it just wasn't something that would ever happen to me. I thought if I was a good enough boyfriend and picked the right girl, I'd be safe from all that. Looking back, I was just naive, or maybe just arrogant, probably both. By my junior year of college, I had broken up with my high school girlfriend of 3 years about a year earlier. I told myself I had learned from it and that I now knew what I wanted. I genuinely believed the next serious relationship I got into would be the one, like marriage and kids level. Yeah. I was young and stupid. That's when I met her. I'll call her Lily. I used to see Lily around campus all the time, especially at the athletic complex where the gym and locker rooms were. She was a track and field athlete, and she was ridiculously good-looking. Athletes from different teams always ended up hanging out together, so I already knew I'd eventually talk to her if I got the chance. One night at a campus gathering, I finally ran into her properly. We passed each other on a staircase, locked eyes, and she smiled at me. I started talking to her, we exchanged a few lines, and then numbers. From there, it turned into the usual flirty texting phase. Constant teasing, hints, but neither of us really admitting anything out loud. She was on a break from her boyfriend at the time, who was a star on the football team. Not long after, she officially ended things with him and started dating me instead. That alone should have been a red flag, but I didn't see it that way. My ego told me, if she left him for me, she's not going anywhere else. Yeah. I was completely wrong. I can't even properly explain how obsessed I was with Lily. I was head over heels in that stupid, intense way where you can't believe someone you like actually likes you back. I was blinded by it, completely. There were so many obvious red flags I just ignored. Things moved fast between us. Almost too fast. I didn't even really take the time to understand why I liked her so much. It just happened. About 8 months later, we officially became a couple. Lily had her own dorm room for athletes, and I was a couple years older, working full-time during summers and part-time during school. I rented an apartment near campus, and she basically lived there with me. She would stay even when I left for away games, which happened 3 to 4 days a week during the season since we were constantly traveling. Despite everything, we were genuinely in love, or at least I thought we were. Toward the end of the season, I planned 2 big parties back-to-back. One on Friday for my teammate's birthday, and one on Saturday for mine. Our birthdays happened to be right next to each other, which made it perfect timing. On Friday night, Lily and I got heavily drunk. We ended up having unprotected sex. She had a period tracking app on her phone, and she always logged things like that because she had irregular cycles from training. Later that night, when she fell asleep, I remembered that she usually logged unprotected sex too, just to track potential pregnancy risks. In my drunk logic, I thought she should update it right away or we'd forget in the morning. I woke her up and said, "Add it to your calendar." We had unprotected sex. It was around 5 a.m. We were both barely conscious, in that drunk half-asleep state. She unlocked her phone, opened the app, and immediately passed out again. So I took her phone and tried to figure out how to enter the entry myself. Now here's something important. During our relationship, Lily had always gone through my phone and laptop. She was extremely insecure and constantly suspicious of me. I never cared because I had nothing to hide. I never cheated, never even came close. Looking back, that was obviously a huge red flag too. At the time though, I genuinely trusted her completely. Date 1. Thinking back now, I realize I walked straight past so many warning signs. But in that moment, I wasn't suspicious at all. I was just trying to log something in her app. When I opened it, I saw different colored markings everywhere. I tapped one out of curiosity. Red meant her period, which made sense. But there were also black entries. Those marked unprotected sex. And that's when my stomach just dropped. The entire calendar was full of black marks. It looked like a chessboard where almost every square was black. The few red ones were scattered in between. The black entries lined up perfectly with the nights I was out of town for away games. I started opening each entry. We only had unprotected sex maybe once or twice a month. But in the notes of those black entries, there were names. Different guys. 4 of them, regularly appearing throughout our entire relationship. Some months had nearly 10 entries. Some days had 2. And suddenly I started thinking, how many weren't even logged? Because she only recorded the unprotected ones. Normal people find out about cheating through texts, or catching someone in the act, or a friend telling them something. I found a literal logbook of my girlfriend's sex life with other men, broken down almost day by day. One of them was her ex, the one she left for me. She had been seeing him the whole time, regularly. There were at least 2 others who seemed like ongoing situations, and a couple more that looked like one-night things. But again, that was only what she recorded. Then I checked her phone further. Nothing in messages at first. Everything was deleted. But Android had a deleted call and message log system where numbers still showed up even if the content was gone. Thousands of deleted entries. I started matching numbers. One was her ex, 6 were random guys. And then I saw 2 numbers belonging to guys from my own basketball team. One of them was someone I was actually close with. That's when I just stopped. I put the phone down because there was too much. Too much proof, too fast. My entire world just collapsed in real time. I can't even describe the feeling properly. Anyone who's been cheated on probably understands that exact moment when everything you believe turns out to be fake. I felt like an absolute idiot for trusting her so completely. And worse, I started thinking about how I had never cheated on her, even when I had chances. And suddenly that felt like a waste. Like my loyalty meant nothing. I know that sounds messed up, but that's where my head was. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was just hurt and trying to process humiliation I didn't know how to handle. I walked out of the apartment and just started walking. I didn't even know where I was going. I had never felt emotions that intense before. My ego was completely destroyed. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. That sadness quickly turned into anger. And in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. I was going to get revenge. I just didn't know how yet. My roommate and best friend, who was also a teammate, was still sleeping on the couch. I'll call him Bino. He was a massive guy from Eastern Europe, built like a wall, the kind of dude who looked intimidating just standing still. He called me while I was wandering outside. I told him what happened and asked him not to say anything. He went into my apartment, and I could hear him yelling at Lily through the phone. He was screaming at her, asking if it was true. She tried to respond, but he kept going, telling her to get out. Eventually I heard movement, and then he got back on the phone and said, "She's gone. Come back." When I returned, we talked about it. It wasn't emotional in a soft way. Neither of us really knew how to process something like that. We just sat there, angry and confused. Then he said, "It's your birthday. We're going out, getting drunk, and finding girls." I had completely forgotten it was my birthday, and that's where it ended for that night. Update 2. It was obvious what mattered to her the most, and it was exactly what Bino had already warned me about earlier. Her entire reputation and social standing were built on the fact that she was my girlfriend. Most people didn't even really like her that much, but they tolerated her because of me. And she knew it. She understood that if I showed up at parties acting single while she was nowhere to be seen, everyone would immediately realize something had gone wrong between us. I think she was more afraid of being socially destroyed than she was of actually losing the relationship. I don't remember most of that night clearly because I was completely lost in a haze of alcohol and substances. The only thing I really remember is sitting in a chair before the party, with two girls sitting on the armrests next to me. I still have a photo from that moment, and I can picture it perfectly in my head. We were about to head out. I had a couple of VIP tables reserved at a popular nightclub downtown. Alcohol and drugs were the only things that made me feel remotely normal at that point. I was wearing dark sunglasses, and I had that forced smile of someone who is extremely drunk and overwhelmed at the same time. If you look at that picture long enough, you can see how much pain is hidden behind that smile. Sitting in that chair, I could feel everything kicking in. That was the first time I wasn't using substances for fun anymore. It was just to feel okay, to feel normal. I remember thinking, I want to feel like this for the rest of my life. I'll never let myself feel hurt like that again. With substances, I'm in control. No one can touch me anymore. It's almost ironic looking back now. I told my friends and teammates that Lily and I had broken up. When people asked why she wasn't coming to the party, I didn't tell the truth, but I also didn't show any emotion. I just played the role of the cool guy and shifted everyone's attention back to the party itself. That night was one of those situations where nothing was fully planned, but nothing was completely random either. I knew I wanted revenge for what she had done to me, but most of it was just me improvising as things unfolded. In that chair, something in me changed. The version of me that used to be kind and naive felt like it had died. All my principles just disappeared. I had never cheated in relationships before, so I had this naive belief that I would never be cheated on either. I realize now how stupid that was, but at the time it felt like logic. I didn't care about consequences anymore. The only thing that mattered was hurting Lily as much as I possibly could. So with that mindset, about a week later I was sitting at my computer scrolling Facebook when I came across the profile of one of her track and field teammates. That was the first moment the idea of revenge really took shape. I decided I would try to sleep with her friends. I had no solid proof that Lily had slept with my teammates, even though she clearly tried to hide her messages with them. But I figured I would test it, see how far it could go. How many of the people around her I could get involved with. The funny thing was, I had more options than she did. The women's track team had way more athletes than our men's basketball team, and I'll be honest, a lot of them were very attractive. The first girl I found on Facebook already had a boyfriend, but my mindset at the time was simple and toxic. If cheating is everywhere, let's just find out how deep it goes. So I started the usual social media flirting. Liked a few of her pictures, she liked mine back. I messaged her, and within a couple of days she was in my bed. About a week later, I did the same thing with other girls from Lily's circle, everyone from her relay team and people closely connected to her. Ironically, 2 out of the 3 girls I slept with were also in relationships and cheated on their boyfriends with me. That only made things more complicated in my head. On one hand, it fed my ego, but on the other, it made me more bitter and cynical. I started thinking things like, women are all cheaters. No one is loyal. It became a twisted worldview where I convinced myself I was just exposing reality. I even built a sort of strategy around it in my head. If they were willing to cheat, they'd keep quiet to avoid being exposed. And when things eventually blew up, the drama would be even bigger. That was genuinely how I justified it to myself. It also helped me cope with what Lily did, because in my mind it proved it wasn't about me. It was just how women are. I know how ridiculous that sounds now, but back then it felt like truth. I started collecting things from the girls I slept with. Bras, underwear, jewelry, little items like that. Not for some creepy reason, but because in my mind it was part of the plan. Sometimes I didn't even have to try. One girl even left a pair of very recognizable shoes at my place. I knew Lily would immediately know whose they were. They belonged to the same girl who had previously been involved with Lily's ex after their breakup, which had already caused drama in their circle. Lily had hated her for that back then. Now it was going to hit even harder. I also kept items like team hoodies with names on them, things that were clearly identifiable to people in her circle. A couple of months later, one of the girl's boyfriends found out she had slept with me, and everything exploded. The entire group of track athletes started turning on each other. Secrets came out. Relationships collapsed. Even coaches had to get involved. Turned into a complete mess. And strangely enough, around the same time, my basketball team started using huge promotional posters with my face all over campus to advertise our next game. My face was everywhere, on walls, buildings, everywhere she went. It felt like I was constantly present in her life, even when I wasn't physically there. Like I was watching everything fall apart from the center of it. Lily's coach got so angry he called meetings with university staff and my coaches. My coaches just laughed it off and basically said I hadn't broken any rules, so there was nothing they could do. That only made things worse on their side. The track team started falling apart. Their rankings dropped. The coach was even seen tearing down my posters around campus in anger. And I'll admit, I enjoyed every second of it. I kept posting photos on Facebook and Instagram with different girls, smiling like everything was fine. On the outside, I looked untouchable. But inside, I was completely hollow. I had turned into someone I didn't recognize. I started hating the version of myself I used to be, the good guy who thought loyalty meant something. Now I saw him as weak. I sank deeper into self-destruction and self-pity at the same time. There was even a point where a girl from one of the athletic teams claimed she was pregnant with my child. I pretended to care and acted like I was in a serious situation with her. But as soon as things got physical again, I distanced myself. It later turned out she wasn't pregnant, but the rumor spread anyway, adding even more chaos into Lily's world. I left a trail of broken relationships everywhere I went. And at the time, I genuinely didn't care. In my mind, those girls weren't victims, they were just as guilty because they had cheated too. But eventually, people started avoiding me. My targets ran out. I wasn't just going after her teammates anymore. I started involving people loosely connected to her life. Classmates, acquaintances, anyone around her orbit. At one point, I even flirted with her sister, who was married with a child. It almost went too far, but her family caught wind of it and shut it down completely, and after that, even more family relationships fell apart. My goal was simple. I wanted Lily to feel like she couldn't escape it, like I was everywhere in her life, constantly reminding her of what she had done. Eventually, she broke down completely. She went into a severe depression, had to take a medical leave, lost weight, and ended up on medication. She was falling apart. And the worse she got, the better I felt. That was the point where I had already done more damage to her than she had done to me. But I couldn't stop. I was addicted to the feeling of control and revenge. I didn't process anything. I didn't heal. I just kept going deeper. And I wanted more. Update 3. One of the most common questions people ask me is, did you ever apologize to Lily or speak to her after everything that happened? The answer is no, at least not yet. But I do plan to. She's on a long list of people I still need to make amends to. It looks like I'll be in her city again next year, and I intend to reach out to her then. I know a lot of you are telling me not to do it, but I've already discussed this with my therapist and with people helping me stay on track. The conclusion we came to is that I should apologize. And I agree with that. I also see a lot of comments from people who completely miss the point of this entire story and why I'm even sharing it. Some are trying to act like my personal therapists, telling me what I should have done 10 years ago. But that's not what this is about. Yes, I reacted horribly, that part is obvious. But the point of this post was never to justify it. It was to give an honest, unfiltered look at what actually happened. As I mentioned before, after Lily, I did have another serious relationship. And in that one, I was cheated on again. But this time it was worse than what happened with Lily. It hurt me on a much deeper level. The difference was that I didn't seek revenge. I just left. That moment became a turning point for me. That breakup eventually led me to the life I have now. I might write about that experience separately because this time I actually made the right choice.